Welcome everyone who's joining in. We already have 130 people viewing, which is not enough. It's very unacceptable, and I demand more. No, I'm just kidding. This is really amazing. I'm excited to see if more people flow in here. Thank you. If you're a fan of Dara's, hi, I'm Barry. We'll do a little bit more intro stuff in a little bit. And for my fans, if you don't know Dara, that's weird to me. But yeah, really honored to have you here. If you can, if you're chiming in, in the chat here, if you can let us know, just let us know like anything about your meta ads data analysis challenges. Like, what are some metrics that you maybe don't like, or some metrics that you think people focus too much on, or anything that you find to be a challenge with analyzing data in meta ads? Let us know, and we'll see if you have if there's anything we can maybe talk about, and then follow up in the Q&A a little bit later. But yeah, let's see anything else interesting here. Do you recommend keeping the multi-advertiser view off at the ad level? All right, well, that's a good one for the Q&A later. Love to see that. Yeah, I'll be interested to see your thoughts on that. I don't know if I have that rigid of a thought, but I have I
don't have too rigid of a thought on it, but generally I keep it off. We've tested it, but like I think with some brands too that have a really strict brand guideline, it's probably best to just keep it off.
Yep. Yeah, no, totally. Again, we'll answer these later, but we just, highlight some of them now. We'll just, tease it a little bit. Someone said here, I like this. Do you think image ads are good enough to get going for simple products like apparel and artificial jewelry? I'm not sure if that's what was meant there. But yeah, so that's something interesting. And I will quickly answer it and say yes, but we can answer that more later. That's a good one to touch on.
Yeah, I'd say too, a reason why I'm really glad we're having this conversation is actually, I think when you and I first started working together several years ago at Thesis, I probably wasn't the best at doing in-depth analysis. In fact,
you were terrible at everything. I don't know why we hired you. You're absolutely the worst and worst employee I've ever had. Yeah.
No, but it is interesting that I've told the story to a few people recently where I had actually lost the potential to get media buying jobs or growth manager jobs like within the last 7 years because they claimed I wasn't strong enough in analytics. And what I think is really interesting now is analytics is primarily like what I do for the brand that I work with in-house. And I think that over the last few years, particularly, it's shifted from being a lot more about spreadsheets and can you do a pivot table and using super metrics to being something that's actually a lot more qualitative and in-depth on the creative, which I think was always going to be something that I excelled in. So I'm really excited to talk with everyone today, really more about my 4-step process to how I am analyzing creatives. And even though I just came out with a really big video on this on YouTube maybe 2 weeks ago about how to analyze meta ads creative or meta ads in general, I didn't actually mention this 4-part process. Maybe some of you got it, but I actually had a lot of regret when I hit publish because I was like, oh, I could have been way more clear that it was way more of do I have this, and this?
Nice. Yeah. I mean, first of all, anyone watching this, please go watch that video. Not right this second. Stay here.
Not obviously.
Right now. But that video is tremendous. Also, your most recent video is also great. Thank you for the little plug for my course in there. I really appreciate it. But yeah, this, this is such an interesting topic. And it's also something where almost unfairly we've just had so much, people like you and me, we get so much more exposure than most people can in this space. Especially having, I think, I don't know if you'd agree, but especially having left the agency world, your own, the agency we both worked at, and being able to I feel like I've gotten access to such a wider variety of verticals and categories and products than even the broad, wide variety that we had there. I feel like it's widened even more. So I don't know if you feel the same, or if you've maybe you've had the opposite effect where you've like narrowed into a specific field. I don't know.
I've definitely narrowed quite a bit, I'd say,
Mhm.
especially over the last 6 months. Like, I primarily work in beauty. And for those of you that don't know, I actually work with really one big beauty brand right now. And I do get exposure to a lot of other brands and what they're doing, and I consult with other brands here and there. But my focus has been a lot more on beauty, which I will be expanding that quite a bit this year. Is like my teaser for what's next for me in like
Nice.
the coming year. But yeah, I really feel like beauty, like some niches, particularly in beauty, is definitely one of them, are like a thing all their own. Like it's, you know, a lot of things that happen for that industry aren't necessarily true in other industries, which is why I was like glad to specialize for a little bit, but not forever.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. So that's a good, okay. So then we have different perspectives then. Like, I like that we have the diversity and, you know, of being kind of specialized and niche down. Although I also think you're maybe not giving yourself enough credit, which I could maybe also say is classic Dara. I think you don't give yourself enough credit. You're incredibly talented. And yeah, I guess let's pause there. And I'm gonna, you know, again, just see like how many people are in here. There's too many people in here, almost 300, 290.
I know, I'm
people.
seeing
That's
so
pretty
many
wild.
comments coming up and I'm like, this is amazing.
That's crazy. This is bonkers. So let's take a second. We'll do intros. I'm going to tell you about who I am. We'll talk about you, Dara. And we'll dig in and talk some hard hitting meta ads data analysis questions.
Great.
So, hey, I'm Barry Hott, longtime Facebook ad nerd. I've been doing this since 2008, back when Facebook ads were in the right column only. There was no optimization for conversions. I've been doing this for a while. I've worked on some of the largest brands on the planet, AT&T, Toyota, Kraft, Microsoft. That's Kraft with a K, by the way, in case anyone was thinking of some other Kraft brand. That is an inside joke for basically one person, but it also makes sense to everyone. Anyway, and then I've also spent the last few years more in the D2C aggressive growth marketing space. So I've worked on brands like Lumen Skin, I've worked on Keeps, worked on Athletic Greens, even though I think a lot of people wouldn't believe that I've ever worked on it.
Many of those I worked with you.
That's true. Yeah, we did work on a lot of this together. I don't think Athletic Greens like me too much, and I think they still don't. But that's neither here nor
okay.
Yeah, that's probably for the better. And yeah, now I do Facebook ads consulting, anything around that, creative, media buying, and landing pages, anything like that. So I do all that. I also own a piece of AdCrate, a performance creative agency, adcrate.co. And yeah, I have a course that we're going to talk about a little bit later, Building Ads with Barry. It's buildingadswithbarry.com. We'll give you a link in the comments later. And maybe a special offer later, maybe if you stick around. So I've worked on this new course just to really put together all of my expertise and knowledge from these 16-ish years of media buying and creative and studying billions of dollars of creative performance and just being able to boil it down into what matters from a creative perspective and from a media buying perspective to make stuff work and scale and give you a way to keep making ads continuously, perpetually, forever. So that's me, Barry Hott. You're here with me right now, Dara Denney. Dara Denney, I will intro the absolute number one best YouTuber talking about anything related to Facebook ads. Is that fair to say? I will say that. You don't have to agree with that.
I appreciate that a lot.
Okay,
it's tough out there on YouTube.
It is.
But,
it is. It's not a competition, but you are the best. You are the best one. So the number one, her channel was so good. In fact, years ago, before it was anywhere near the size it is now, I actually hired Dara to be on my team. And since then we've become friends and we've worked together on stuff. And it's been an honor to watch you continue to grow and shine and just kick ass. So I like to think I'm your biggest fan. So I'd love to hear from you. What's going on with you? What are you doing? What can you share? And obviously everyone should be subscribed to your channel and hopefully mine as well on YouTube.
They should also subscribe to yours. Yeah,
sure.
of course.
Yeah, I'm putting out some more content.
The way that I like to think about what I do in my day-to-day job is I really have 3 jobs right now. Number one, I'm a paid creative consultant. So I work directly with brands on their creative strategy, primarily for meta ads. I have one premier client that I work with right now. I actually go into the office a few times a week in New York.
Wild. I can't believe you do that.
I actually really like it. I feel like you really do get a lot more of the collaboration, and it's cool because I get to work with some of the people that we worked with at Thesis still, which is awesome. This industry is incredibly small. My second role that I have, which is like what started off as my passion project, is I do make content for paid social advertisers. And, you know, I started my YouTube channel about 5 years ago now. And really the main goal there was to create content for who I was when I first started. And it's definitely something that I feel like reinvigorated with recently, particularly on the YouTube side of things. I had been doing a lot of like Instagram and TikTok and trying to compete there. But more recently, I'm just like, you know what? I think I'm just going to stick to YouTube. It's like my bread and butter. And I love being able to really go in depth and do more tutorial-based content for people. I feel like that's really where I can jam with you guys and get to know even the brands that you work on better. And then third, probably my newest role is I'm also chief evangelist at Motion. I've actually had a number of you slide into my DMs recently and be like, what is that? What kind of job is this? And really what I'm working with the team over at Motion is, number one, working on some specialty secret projects with them, which you guys will all, get to learn about pretty soon. Pretty excited about that. Also, I work with them a lot on making sure their product is really the best product for creative strategists out there. I've been a longtime partner of Motion. It was a really natural integration. And yeah, I mean, my life pretty much 16 hours a day revolves around paid advertising, and I love it. I'm completely obsessed all these years later, and I'm really happy that I just get to share that with everyone.
That's awesome. Wow. And we're definitely going to have you in the course. You're going to be joining us for a session, which we will be also talking a bit more about Motion. I don't know if you knew that, but we're going to have you talk a little bit about your Motion, kind of how you use it and what you get out of it.
Oh yeah. And I'm happy to talk about that here too. Like I was actually creating Motion reports this morning before I even got on this call. It was like a big thing that I'm doing right now for the brand that I work with, building out a ton of reporting around their celebrity and influencer programs. So amazing. I can jam on that forever.
Sick. All right. Amazing. Let's save that for the course maybe.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of stuff to cover here. So we're going to dig in. We're going to talk about meta ads data analysis in 2025. What really works? 349 people tuned in right now. Welcome. We're kicking it off right now. Please stick around. We got a few really good questions we're going to dig into. And we also have a cool offer that we're going to have for you at the end of this. So first thing I want to talk about. How do you set up your ads manager columns for scalable, impactful metrics? So not in Motion, but in actual ads manager. What are you looking at? What do you like? How do you actually set it up? And I mean, I think I biased this already on you, but what do you do?
Yeah, of course. Well, if it's okay, I'd like to take just a minor step back a little bit. And what I'd like to do, I'm trying to share my screen.
It's basically your show. Yeah. We'll get you. Yeah, just share your screen. We'll put it up.
Okay, amazing. There we go. So,
give us one sec.
Yeah, of course.
We should have done this in the tech check, Dara.
I know.
8 minutes. Let me see if we can get it up. There we go.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I am going to show you guys exactly how I'm setting up my meta ads dashboard. And to be honest, we're probably not going to spend.
Wow, you came so prepared for this. I am shook. This is nuts. Let's go.
So I am going to show you how I'm setting up the meta ads dashboard. But to be honest, I hope that we don't spend a ton of time on that because I really don't think that actually the numbers are what's going to get you the ability to make more ad creative that's converting. So in order to do that, I've boiled it down really to this 4-part process, which is number one, metrics. So what are your actual metrics telling you? We're going to dive into that. I'm going to show you my dashboards, whatever. The second part is content. So what is the actual content saying? What is the actual, content of the content? What type of messaging are you using? What type of imagery are you using? What type of talent are you using? How can those things potentially influence your performance? And then number 3 is comparison. And now this is something that I actually find a lot of people miss out on in their analysis, which is number 1, how do these metrics compare to your top performers? How do they compare to overall performance? Another way that I like to think about comparison too is how does the creative or trends compare to what else is happening with your competitors, within the industry itself, or within just the actual platform trends? And then number 4 is feedback. Now, I do want to dive in quite a bit to feedback because I think a lot of times the type of feedback that people automatically think about is, okay, what type of ad comments are there? But there are also different types of feedback that I find is really, really necessary to source to get a real full picture of your ad creative. So let's go ahead and dive into number 1, right? This metrics portion of it. Now, if you've been to a few of my talks, then you've definitely seen this slide before. The way that I really like to think about ads manager and breaking it down is I like thinking about these things into primary KPIs and storytelling KPIs. So even when I'm setting up my dashboard, immediately I'm looking at amount spent and results and your cost per result. And those are really the only things that I am looking at to determine, hey, is this a winner or is this not a winner? Which is, again, why it is set up on the complete left side, or like the most accessible and viewable side of my dashboard. Now I'm kind of interested, Barry, to hear from, to have you kind of tear this apart a little bit. But
Sure.
How are you thinking about looking into primary KPIs versus storytelling KPIs and how those are intermingling? I am very, very strict on it. I am only looking at primary KPIs to determine whether or not something is working or not.
I mean, I just look at spend to determine whether or not something's working or not and let the system do it. But, in terms of the view, and that's something we'll dig into way more in the course because that was a really wild thing for me to just drop in there and with no other context. But for me, amount spent is, the first thing usually I have in there. And then I am doing what you're talking about here. But I really don't like the cost per the results column.
Okay.
Unless I have to, if I'm using multiple different goals in the account, then I might, but even then I'd rather just have the whatever it is, the cost per and the whatever that actual thing is. Typically purchase. That would be or lead, right? That would be the first things I would just want those columns. I don't really that's just me personally, not saying it's bad. In fact, most people, you should use it, but I just hate it.
No, and I actually, when I am going through Ads Manager, the first thing I like to do is cycle everything from highest to lowest by spend. And then I'll quickly cross-analyze the results or the purchases. Typically, I'm not putting as much weight on the cost per result, but I often find that conversation gets brought up a lot in conversations, which is why I like to have it easily accessible. And most of the time I find, if there's a cost per result is lower and the results and the amount spent are higher comparatively, whether you're looking at a specific campaign or a specific creative test, those are ultimately going to be the ones that you're scaling up. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool. So next part, let's go to storytelling KPIs, right? So these are the things that essentially will potentially tell us the story of why an ad creative is working or not. It doesn't actually indicate anything else to me. So I could go down this line of all of these specific KPIs, but I'm wondering, is there ones that people would like me to zero in on specifically, or is there one that you want to look at specifically, Barry?
I mean, I'd love to hear you talk about the video ones, the hook rate, hold rate, and
because I feel like you're gonna say something potentially that doesn't necessarily.
No, I'm not gonna make you look bad.
No,
no, I would never. No, I'm not. I think,
No,
no, I'm just curious.
I actually think that this is a point where we really agree. So like I do have the most important storytelling KPIs, like your video hook, your video hold, and your average video watch time. So one of the most popular questions that I get is, okay, I know that we can get more information and potentially have a more data-backed reason for why an ad creative is working if it's video versus images. So like, yeah, there's not going to be an equivalent of like a video hook or hold or average video watch time for images. Like I don't need, like click-through rate doesn't suffice that because a lot of times we are very much advertising on a completely broad audience. Sometimes that click-through rate is a false flag unless you're tracking it over time. So if you see, oh, you're running an ad creative for a long time and it's starting to, the click-through rate is starting to decrease, that could be a sign of creative fatigue. But if it's just lower comparatively, I don't tend to put as much stock in that. But yeah, when looking at video hook and video hold and average video playtime, your video hook is essentially going to tell you how good is it at getting that initial bit of attention. And one of the most, common questions that I get is, what type of benchmarking metrics should we be looking at there? And I feel like the old adage was a good video hook rate would be something like 20% or 25%. But I'm actually finding that now it's looking a lot more like 30s and like 35, 40 is like the benchmark that I'm trying to hit for my creatives. And video hold used to be around 5%. And now I'm finding that I'm really striving for more of the 10% hold rates. Average video playtime is going to depend completely on how long your video ad creative is, which is why that I actually look at your video hold and your average video playtime and sort of use that as a comparison. Because the video hold that I use is for people that watch the first 15 seconds of an ad. So what percentage of people are looking at that first 15 seconds? And I really like to compare that with the overall average and see, were people actually watching quite a bit more of it just because the video was longer? Or are we actually doing something unique and interesting within that first 15 seconds to have that video retention?
Sweet. Love it. I mean, like you called out something important, which is like, I wish that the video average playtime metric was more indicative of something, but it really is just really indicative of how long your video is. Like if people are not watching it, then it's bad. But like, if you can't really compare apples to apples video view playtime, right? It's like really not useful.
Yeah. No, you used to use a metric at thesis all the time called like video hook over video hold. Are you still using that?
Yeah. I still use that for sure. I definitely recommend, like, I think it's a way to, just understand out of the people that you're getting their attention, how many are sticking around. And the other thing I also look is cost per 3 second view and cost per through play. I look at those because because any rate, click through rate or hook rate or hold rate doesn't account for how much you're paying for that inventory. So the cost is actually more, to me, is in some ways more of a scalable thing, but it rarely varies that much. Well, that's not true. It's basically the same thing. You just have to learn the difference between that and like hook rate. It's kind of like the inverse. But the other thing I was going to say is, to me, all of this, it's like, it's about relevance is the problem. You don't know if you're getting a high hook rate because it's just something that's thumb stopping, or if you're getting a high hook rate because it's thumb stopping and relevant. You don't know. Because like you can have an ad with a lower thumb stop, but if it's really relevant to the people that are getting them to stop.
And it's stopping the right people, which is again why I don't put a ton of weight on click-through rate, because it could just be all about getting the right people. I'm actually finding I'm actually finding slightly less relevancy, and I'm putting less weight in things like hook and hold rate and click-through rate more and more as Meta actually leans into a lot more automation and AI on their ads buying platform. The more that ASCs come into play, the more I'm like, okay, what is driving the revenue? What is, ultimately getting those purchases? That is, I'm just continuously backing into that, and even relying on the storytelling metrics a lot less, and using more of my time to focus in on what's happening in the content. how it's comparing to
You're talking about more qualitative analysis.
Yes, I am focusing way more on qualitative analysis these days.
This is like the scary hard thing. That's the is like, you know, we are in an industry that's like so data driven, and everyone wants like, what are the numbers? Okay, well, hook rate, hold rate, click through rate, like whatever. That's all anyone really wants. But in reality, like, everyone's time is better served watching the video and trying to watching the video or looking at the image and just trying to think about it.
Yeah.
Understanding this ad is performing well. Let's think about why. And this ad's not performing so well. Let's think about and talk about why. There is no metric. There's no metric that can help you.
There's no surefire metric except for dollars.
Right. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So, and which is why actually I feel like as much as analysis and these metrics are important to understand, it's a lot more about being comfortable and confident with them so that you can then back into what's actually happening into the content. Now, I do see a few questions in here that I do want to answer really quick from Sophia B. Is there a reason why you look at unique outbound click-through rate as opposed to link click-through rate? And Pat Verstisi said outbound is the traffic to your landing page. So yes, that is absolutely true. I really want to look at how many
people I gotta edit you on that one. It's Patvertise. Not Pat Vertisi. Just want to make sure we caught that one because that's an incredible moment. That is Pat.
If that ends up as a short, I'll be really
Pat Vertisi. He's Italian. Yeah.
So I want to highlight him really quick or them for
right.
The outbound is the traffic to your landing page. So yes, I am really trying to zone in because the link click-through rate can also track other people who are clicking around to the ad or people who are clicking on your profile and going to your profile page. I really want to look at people who are actually just clicking on the CTA and going directly to the landing page. It's the purest form of click-through rate.
Well, also because there are a lot of clicks on ads that are on the ad and don't go out to the link. So
yeah,
really important to remember that. And we dig into that in the course, by the way.
Yes. And then another question from Christian Clark, is ROAS going to be included in your primary KPIs or where does ROAS come into play? In some cases, yes. I'd say that actually for the beauty brand I work with, we focus quite a bit on ROAS. However, we're not looking at ROAS inside of Ads Manager. We are looking at it in a triple whale. So again, Fergal is mentioning, do you believe that platforms like triple whale are good or bad for the majority of brands? I've been pretty open about this on my channel. I think that unless you have multiple attribution channels, you don't really need them. And I don't think that they really unlock a ton of insight at the ad level. But for brands that have quite a bit more acquisition channels, they do find a lot more comfort in the data and being able to optimize which ad and which ad sets and campaigns ultimately are doing the best for them. So,
I rather, and I do a whole section on this in the course, but I actually really rather not do a lot of optimization based on third-party tracking because the system isn't, right? We're not optimizing the system.
And that's the tricky thing. Yeah.
Right. This is the tricky thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Because those third-party tracking platforms, I am not saying don't use them. Go use Triple L, use Northbeam, but use it with a grain of salt. I would not recommend using it at a granular level to study ad performance. And I just, because it doesn't take into account the actions that are happening on meta surfaces. If someone's viewing videos and that's why the system wants to spend more on it and that brings more people into the funnel that other ads retarget, we dig more into this in the course. But that's stuff that I see happening. There are times where an ad doesn't drive a lot of apparent effective sales, but it might be driving tons of shares, and those shares might be bringing in more customers through other ads or something like that. I see this happen a lot, and I just use that as a symbol or a signal of how Meta is looking at stuff beyond what just can be tracked off clicks in third. So we could talk about that for hours. We only have another 30 minutes. So I want to keep us on track here.
Yeah, which is why I want to get us out of actually
Okay, let's go.
metrics.
Let's go.
Yes, because I see a number of you saying, hey, all right, pay attention more to what's happening in the content. How do you do that? Let's do that, right? Now, when I am thinking of creative level data that I really, really like to zoom in on, I'm thinking, number one, format. How likely is the format going to be the reasoning for an ad creative performing or not? It's important to take stock from, but I also I find the things that tend to influence performance the best or the most are going to be things like the specific talent that you're working with, the specific messaging that you're using inside of the ad creative, as well as the imagery. So I actually have this document that I use, especially when training people on how to analyze what's going in on these different levels. So when you're first looking at formats, right, you can think really simply at first. Hey, is this creative working because it's a static, a video, carousel, a GIF? No, it's generally never going to be just because of that format. So you like to zoom down a little bit more into categorization. So if you're looking at video, like what type of video are you using? What type of video format are you using? What type of creator or even static format are you using? And I really find that it's all, first about categorizing what type of video it is. And then, in the next step comparison, being able to draw trends about what's working on that level. When it comes to messaging, there are a few different messaging, tactics and strategies I'm going to be really looking at, which number one is like, what part of the user journey is it at? And I actually tend to look at user journey actually more simply. And this is something that I learned from you, Barry, which is about how scalable an ad creative is, or about which ad creative or which type of messaging is going to have the ability to attract the biggest amount of people. I think that actually tends to be, something that when I'm analyzing a creative in retrospect, actually, when we look at the other tests that we've run, this actually just has the most scalable messaging instead of it, going to someone who's unaware or problem aware or solution aware. It's mostly about scalability. But it is something that I like to think about in terms of the awareness levels.
I couldn't agree more. A big part of the whole course is like, the goal is scale. The goal is not the lowest possible efficiency. The goal is finding the most scale that is efficient, and what are the ways that we do that?
Yeah. The second thing that I'm going to be looking at for messaging is, of course, desire messaging. So I just had a huge video that came out about this recently that goes into the 16 different human desires. Some of the most popular ones for meta ads particularly are going to be things like leaning into romance, like True Classic and Dr. Squatch do, leaning into power or social acceptance, family, intelligence. And it's really interesting, actually. I had this big conversation with some executives at the beauty brand that I work with, and they were really pushing us actually to lean into more messaging that had emotions and drew more of that desire language. But when we looked back at what was actually working, it was actually sort of more of the cut and dry, most scalable type of language that tended to be working for them. And I'm not saying that the desire language can't be optimal. It absolutely can. But I think that, people like to talk a game on consumer psychology, and I agree it's so important, but sometimes thinking more simply and thinking more scalable can actually get you those better results. And it's sometimes what I see the performance coming from is, things that actually are just a little bit more simple. And then, of course, looking at things like strategic messaging. Are you leaning into negative marketing, overcoming objections, education, taboo? And then sometimes just including numbers can also help. So I'm not going to read through all of these across formats, messaging, imagery, and talent. You guys can take a look at that yourself. But really, these are the big things that I'm zeroing in on to draw comparison on, hey, which one of these things is actually probably moving the needle here, which you can tell based more on the comparison.
I love this. I love seeing this variety, just seeing all this laid out. there's so much more depth to it beyond this, right? This is
Yeah.
it's just like when you think about like any of this, it starts to help a lot of people frame in terms of like, wait, I hadn't thought about like tweaking this concept of it. And these are all things that you can use to like just play with a concept, play with a, something to just change something a little bit. I think this is sick.
Yeah. And like for thinking about the messaging too, like here was really the segment around like more of the unaware versus most aware. And this is actually something that I like to back into a lot, particularly around, when looking at things that are unaware versus most aware is, a lot of times when you go down, when you think of like the most scalable type of language, that doesn't always mean that it's going to be the easiest to convert. Sometimes with newer brands or smaller brands, like I actually find that, of course, like the testimonials or the us versus them or even the offers, those are the things that continually convert for them again and again, but they're ultimately not as scalable. So I think that's what I really love about your POV on ads is like, oh, like how can we create the most revenue at scale? And like ultimately the biggest thing that we should be like trying to optimize for is that scalable creative instead of trying to go inch by inch to like getting conversions, or else you're always going to be on the hamster wheel.
Exactly. And I'll just add, like, it's not to say don't do these things, but it's to like note you want to find the ads that are even bigger, but also you want to use a lot of these in conjunction, right? Like having multiple of these ads that are working in live is super valuable, right? Like you shouldn't be just having one winning ad and just trying to beat that with a new winning. It's about like, no, we want a lot of winning ads live.
Yeah.
That are valid and relevant to different people in the funnel, to different types of people all across the spectrum. Like that's what you want. That's where you find scale. And that's again, what we are talking about mostly in my course. Like that's almost the entire hypothesis of the course right there is how to do that.
Yeah. And I'd say too, like one of the big questions that I get every time I show people this slide is, okay, like how are you then creating or how are you then targeting like different, like these creatives to different people? Number one, all of these are still in a broad audience, but they're absolutely going to be delivered to different types of people. And really it's all about experimentation and just having as much creative diversity as you can. So, I try to make sure that when we're developing the creative roadmap for people, that we are, getting, a few of these in the mix at any given time. So it's, not as formulaic or methodical. It's really just about making sure you have a really good spread. And then you just continually optimize on what's performing the best at any given time.
I mean, I would ask you, can you achieve all of these in one? Right? Can you have one ad that works for all of these people? Like
I think that people don't actually like. I think that there are plenty of people who convert based on a quote unquote unaware ad. Like people
right.
just like don't like they're not going to be motivated by their awareness level. It's mostly about what is inside the ad creative. But I think that when teaching this type, when teaching like about formats and about messaging, I do like to try to categorize it this way for people, but it's just not as like black and white, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I love that just the color coding here, like about the most.
Yeah, the color coding's great.
Right. Like this is because like if you make something that's great for the unaware audience, and if you can carry people through that entire route, you can actually literally make ads that work for everyone. As long as someone who's fully aware, right, of what this is and why, as long as the content that you're including in there is still relevant to them, right? It can be relevant to a cold audience, but it can also be still relevant to a warm audience. You don't have to inherently make content that is just for a warm audience if your cold audience content can be relevant to them, if that makes sense. It is possible.
I'd say too that I never ever start like a brief or ideating on a creative from which stage of awareness we're going to be like creating it for. I always just try to think, how can it be the most scalable? And really, I only look at this slide as, in retrospect when analyzing the creative, because I find that that's when I actually get the most insights from it. Like, oh, okay, this actually was working. Was it because it wasn't as scalable? It was as scalable. Like, what can that potentially tell me about what I have to optimize for and create next?
That's awesome. By the way, just note, I actually thought we only had 15 minutes left. We actually have an hour and 15 minutes left. So I was like, oh my God, we're running out of time. No, I looked at the time wrong completely. This is awesome. I am so excited that we get to do chat and we don't have to rush as much as I thought we had to.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. This is really amazing. I cannot thank you enough for sharing this. I think you share too much. I've told you this before. I think you constantly share too much, but it's really great. No, it's really awesome. And that's literally what makes you and your channel so great. And this is, please comment, if you found this valuable. Cause I think I understand so much of this already myself, but just seeing it laid out this way is still so helpful and valuable. And I love it.
Yeah. And I'd say too, I know a lot of the people watching are on teams. They're starting to train people. And this kind of stuff is really things that I wish that I would have had when I was trying to download my brain to other people that I was working with. So I want to cycle through this actually, the rest of these pretty quickly so that we can just get back to jamming and answering questions from the audience.
Sure.
But the next part of this is really just about taking all the metrics that you have, taking all of the content that you've ingested and the categorization that you've done for the format, for the messaging, and imagery, and really being able to compare that. And I like to look at that as an internal comparison and an external comparison. So how are these things comparing to your top performers? Number one, yes, of course, we want to compare that to the actual metrics. And when I'm thinking about this, it's okay, if you're looking at an individual ad creative test and it's really, moving the needle for you, how is it comparing to your other top performers? Is it a unicorn ad? Is it beating out everything else? But also looking at the actual content inside the ad creative. Are there similarities in messaging? Are there similarities in the, part of the user journey where you're potentially messaging to? Those type of insights can help you to really create things that are in the same vein without doing a cut and dry iteration, to really build upon and create net new creative that's based on data. Another thing that I have found that the brands that I work with get the most value from is when I am able to compare creatives to what's going on in the external environment. So whether or not that's going to be their direct competitors. So something that I actually really like to do is every single month with a brand that I work with, I will create a slide for each of their competitors and draw out things that, I see that they're, certain messaging tactics that they seem to be using again and again, which would be safe to say, hey, this is specific learning that they have, or specific types of products that they're launching. These are things that I find that for my clients, it's really, really valuable information for them to have, and also can potentially point out specific learnings that they are having that you can potentially capitalize on. I'm generally not suggesting that we do that, we steal content, but make it your own. And if your competitors are having a learning, it's also a learning for you to have as well, especially if you're targeting the same audience. But yeah, I'd say too, not just thinking about your competitors, but also looking into your broader industry, as well as platform trends. This is one thing that I found was really, really important in 2024, was being able, especially for beauty, to look at what was happening on the organic side of things and being able to draw trends from, organic TikTok and what was happening in the beauty industry there, as well as Reels, and being able to turn that and borrow certain elements of that into the ad creative that we were making, especially when working with creators. And of course, being able to draw specific insights from Varro's particle, which I've talked about a few times on my channel, can also be really valuable. But I find again and again, the insights that my clients find the most valuable is when you can have a specific learning, whether it's about format, but more importantly, a specific type of creator, a specific type of like storytelling element that they're using, or a specific messaging tactic. Those are the things that I find brands that I work with, when they walk away from with a learning they can really stick a flag in, they feel that they really got their time and their money's worth from that. So yeah. Final thing that I'll mention then is feedback. So whenever I talk to brands about feedback, we're primarily going to be looking at ad comments, but there's so many different ways that you can get feedback about a brand. But like, let's start with the ad comments, because I know you're stoked about that, Barry. I have said that ad comments is like, they're like free consulting with your target user and your target demographic. So definitely take what they're saying to heart. But I also find that feedback from the CX team, from customer reviews, of course, but even just amongst different team members about what they're seeing in the content that you might not see, has been really, really valuable as well. I think one of the hard things in 2024 or 2025 is a lot of our teams are remote, and I find that that definitely does stifle collaboration in some ways. And the way that I look at a creative is absolutely not the same way that some of my teammates might look at creative. So being able to source feedback across teams and across users and across your customers is wildly, wildly important to being able to draw those learnings that you can then capitalize on again and again.
Amazing. Absolutely. I mean, like, I post about comment stuff all the time. I'm obsessed. I always think like it's great to look at customer reviews. Often, really helpful to find why people crossed the finish line.
Yeah.
But comments, especially when there's questions in there or like criticisms in there, it really helps you understand why people aren't crossing the finish line to buy. And if you can address those in your future ad, it's not about like that future ad being shown to that exact person.
Yeah.
It's an emblem of other people they're a proxy for other people that are questioning that too. You should be so thankful to have that person dropping that comment with that criticism, with that question, and then know like, okay, like next batch of ads, I want to like tack that on. It's not the first thing I'm going to start the ad with. Maybe if you're like, oh wow, that's potent, that's like, oh, that's a problem, I want to make sure we visually storytell. But usually it'll be something like, oh, and it installs really easily. Like, I'm not going to start with that, right? If someone's like, how is this hard to set up? No, but I'm going to put that later in the ad. It's not how I'm going to start an ad, so that's what I just think about. Like, the comments are so important.
Yeah, and I Patvertise. I finally am saying it right. Jeez. He has to Patvertise. Yikes. Do you know a way to scrape ad comments or organic comments? And I know of one that does great organic comments. I'm trying to like see if they can do ad comments, which is a software called Sifsy, but that's the only one that I know of. Or I do it manually, which can't be optimal.
I mean, it's actually pretty easy when you look at your top spending ads and you look at the most, the biggest, most liked comments. Those are emblematic of the things that are getting seen the most, the things that matter the most. So when if you're spending a lot, which you are, that's an easy way to do it. When you're not spending as much, it's hard for those to pile up and see the trends. But it's pretty easy when you look at your top spending ad, if it's getting lots of comments, or sort your ad account instead of by spend, but by comments, and then go to the ad that's getting the most comments, because it's not always your top spending ad. Some ads sometimes generate more comments for a lot less money. It can happen. And it's not necessarily a good or bad signal. It's just a signal, and definitely worth considering. And go look at those. I want to, you touched on Patvertise's other question here. Do you try to find organic inspo manually or with a tool? I don't know if we'll have time to get into this here, but both, I feel like a jerk salesman trying to plug my course, but this is a huge function of my course, is not necessarily a tool, but like a process and a way and a manner, by studying like there's ways you can study organic content that it'll feed it to you. And additionally, something I'm working on also, I can't really mention it, but working on with motion might involve helping with that as well. So kind of cool, but I can't talk about it. Apparently, I've said too much. I'm probably going to get shot.
You've said too much. I've said too much.
Yeah, we're in deep trouble here. Meanwhile, they're probably thrilled. Anyway, let's keep going. Where are we? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I think we should go into some of the comments.
Okay.
That people have.
I have more questions for you.
Oh no, go. Okay, yeah, hit me with the questions then.
Well, I think we talked a little bit about a clear framework for identifying what's working and what's not. Is there anything else you want to touch on about that, or do you feel like we already that's what you just presented?
I mean, yes, I think that pretty much for what's working and what's not. When I'm looking at metrics, there are only two questions that I'm really trying to get. Number one, what's working, and potentially why is it working?
Right.
So again, when trying to identify what's working, I'm really only looking at spend and purchases. But then when trying to zero in on what element specifically is working, I actually think that's where comparison really comes into play, and being able to track that iteration slide that I was referring to. Oh, if we see that this specific creator is working again and again and again for us, maybe we should try and work with this creator again. Maybe we should try and work with other creators that are like her. And I find that's similar to with messaging. For me, I never really have a learning unless I pressure test it. And unless it's something that's been tested multiple times and it's been proven multiple times to work. So do I have a framework for it? I feel like for me, it's kind of intuitive at this point, unfortunately.
I mean, samesies. But also for me, I think I said this earlier, the framework is what's spending, right? What is able to spend, what is able to spend. And when I'm giving the system the ability to spend on lots of things, and I'm typically setting, probably cost cap goal often, maybe a bid, depending on the situation. I'm not going to say one or the other is best or whatever. There's different purposes for the different tools. There's not one way to do this. But generally, when I'm giving the system what I want it to do, and I'm giving it the framework within, I'm giving it the rules of the game it can play, because that's really important. Again, something we covered deeply in the course. Then the game really is a game of spend. That's the framework, is what's spending, why does the system want to spend with it? And then empathizing, basically everything you just said is empathizing with the consumer who's viewing this stuff, and empathizing with why they're taking action, why they're paying attention to it, and empathizing with the system. And empathizing with why would the system, if the system were a human media buyer, manually, flipping the switches and allocating budget, why would it do this? What data was it using to make this decision? And so many people see an ad getting tons of spend with no purchases, or really bad CPA or ROAS. And there's often a reason for it. Sometimes it gets it totally wrong, sometimes, but more often than not, when you give the system lots of data, it's really not getting it wrong. It's those situations where you're not giving it lots of data where it can get it more wrong and can get distracted.
And are you using, and when you're saying data, are you equating that to spend? The more spend you put behind an ad, the more data it gets?
Great. Thank you for clarifying. No. The more, I mean conversion data, so volume. So, right?
Yeah.
If you're spending, $1,000 and you're getting 1,000 conversions, that's a lot of data. If you're spending $1,000 and you're getting one conversion, that's not a lot of data. And really important that every 450 people tuned in here right now have a very different cost per purchase and a very different ability to spend. And the advice for one is not the same as the other. So a lot of this is about conversion volume, not necessarily spend, but there are, like, so the worse conversion volume you get, like the higher price your product is, the harder it is to get good data. So I'm not saying to lower your price. I'm not saying like to change anything about your business necessarily. I'm just saying that there are other ways you can get that more data or look at secondary metrics. But yeah, it's just easier when the more data you get. So either you get that by improving your performance so you have more conversion volume, or you spend more so you get more conversion volume, which is not a good answer, not a good solution if you're doing poorly. But
yeah, because Robbie Shelton had a question that said, can an ad spend but hurt the performance of a campaign? I've had ads be super engaging, but have had horrible ROAS, which I think is like backing into what you're saying.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
It is possible. And I've absolutely had it happen, and it sucks. Okay. But again, at larger scale and with more volume, it literally doesn't happen to me. So that's maybe a point of privilege that I get to be at in some accounts. But like, I think too many people are too quick to say what Robbie's saying here and turn off an ad. They're like, oh, it's spending so much and it's not performing. I'll shut it. But they're not seeing, and they're not able to see why the system is doing that. So to your point about like doing the qualitative analysis, you before you turn that ad off or you do anything to it, you have to study it. And you have to do the empathy test that I just said, where you're studying why would an audience be paying attention to this, and why would the system be spending more money on this. And you really can empathize. You really can watch it and empathize, and also understand like, oh, the system is probably spending more on this because it's getting lots of attention, but people aren't buying from it because that attention isn't relevant enough to get people to buy.
It's not the right type of attention. It's potentially even the wrong audience, which is something that we've seen quite a bit with what I call like hook rate baiting, where people go after the most absurd hook rate and they get a lot of people stopping, but it's not the right type of people.
Exactly. And that can happen. And why I'm talking about having more volume, more conversion volume and more data is because the more you have, the more the system knows, the more it can optimize, the better it can avoid those mistakes. But often what happens is it's just going off of like really preliminary basic knowledge. Like imagine the difference imagine again, this is the empathy. Imagine you only had, if you had the situation where it's $1,000 of budget and you have one conversion and you have 100 ads or 10 ads, how are you going to allocate? You're going to look at what are the things that get attention? What are the things that get clicks? What are the things that maybe get secondary actions? And you're going to optimize based on that. The system is doing some version of that, right? And if it only has one conversion piece of data, it's going to, or it has basically none, it's going to often optimize for that kind of logic or something like it, where it's going to really prioritize that thing that gets attention. So if you're going to be trying to get a lot of attention, either make sure it's relevant attention or make sure you do something enough with that relevant attention to get the people to buy. And this is hard. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying, okay, I've just said it to you, like you're good now. This takes practice and time and learning, but the more you can empathize with the more you can empathize with the system and how it would optimize, the better you can be at getting in front of that and preventing that from ever even happening, because you wouldn't be creating engagement bait that isn't relevant to what you're selling. Although it also can happen by accident. Like if you put something in an ad that looks accidentally like a butt, or maybe is maybe it is really a butt, and that's what just gets people to stop, and it's the wrong people stopping, right, for the wrong reasons. Wrong people and wrong reasons. That's the worst possible scenario for you to be blasting out spend. What I'll additionally say is that depending on the amount of volume you have, the system should fix that, right? If it's spending on something that's not driving sales, and it's not helping, it's not going to keep spending on it. And this is an important reminder, and we really dive into this in the course. The system is not trying to get you the lowest cost per purchase or the highest ROAS at the ad level. The system doesn't care about the individual ad performance. The system cares about the ad set performance or the campaign performance, depending on how you're optimizing. So if the system wants to spend 90% of your budget on one ad that has a terrible CPA, but in doing so, it allows the other 10% of the budget to slam dunk home conversions on all of the other ads in the ad set, the system will do that. And you can't understand why. I'm not saying it really does that 90-10, right? That would be pretty unusual. But if it was doing it, it would look really, really, really bad to you as a media buyer or whoever who can only view the post-optimized data, because you're viewing data. This is the breakdown effect. We cover in the course. I've done other content about it. You can go look up Facebook ads breakdown effect, Facebook ads breakdown effect in my name if you want my take on it. But it's not really exactly, it's definitely not trying to get you the most purchases for that ad. That's not. It's trying to get you holistically more purchases for your entire budget. So that's where people get lost, I think, is they're like, oh, this one ad is spending so much and the CPA is so much worse than all the other ones. But the game is scale. The game is not lowest CPA ad is best. The game is overall, how do we spend more money while my ad set, my campaign, my account, my business continues to spend more and stays efficient.
Yeah.
I'm fired up.
The breakdown effect will do that too.
This is what the course is. It's just me shouting at the camera. No, I'm like having fun. But like a lot of the times I get really fired up, and like this is one of my favorite topics right there. And I can't talk about it more.
Inspired Mind has a good follow-up to that. So are you saying to leave those ads that seem like they might not be performing on, as it might be helping the others?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's dangerous and it's risky. And if this is my own money, I would be very careful about this. But I am 100% saying to do this. And I'm saying you have to empathize with it. If you watch that ad and you're like, wait a second, Facebook spending on this ad more is bad. I don't want the system to spend more on this. This is not the message I want spending this. Then turn it off. I don't care. I mean, I would care if you're turning off something that the system thinks is going to actually drive you value. But you should be looking at it that way. Is would this make sense as something that's more scalable, as something that works better, as something track conversions at all? Would I want this ad out there spending more, changing more minds? And if the answer to that question is yes, go ahead.
I'd say too, this is why you have to look at your comparative data, or why you have to take into context the broader state of the ad account. If you're talking about an ad creative that's maybe not doing as well, but it's literally eating up 75 or 50% of your spend, I'd be very careful about turning that ad off. And probably weigh that. I would be way more risk averse in terms of turning that off, as opposed to if you have a creative test that's only spent $1,000 and you see that the top performing ad isn't doing as well, turn it off. There's no reason to continue spending on that. But if you have something that is eating up the lion's share of your ad account, that's where I tend to get a lot more nervous, because there's been many times where I've worked on teams where we've turned off a top performing ad because it wasn't profitable anymore. And then the entire rest of the account went to shit for the next few days after that. And we've tracked it back to turning off that top performer.
Yep. I see it all the time. And it's often gradual, and people don't realize it, because it's so much of what we're doing when we're advertising, especially at bigger and bigger scale, is you're not operating a speedboat. You're operating, a cruise ship. It takes a while for the account performance to turn sometimes, or for the data to catch up. If you make a big input, it might take a couple days for that, and you might not be able to notice how or why something happened. I see that happen a lot, especially with turning off ads. You're like, oh, everything's better now, and then suddenly performance gets worse, and you're unable to scale as much. You have to spend less, which is not how you grow a business, which is generally most of our jobs. I want to highlight this note here from our friend Pat Fertizzi, who we don't know, and he called you Dasha. And I just want to make sure that revenge is on air, and he got revenge. He called you Dasha, and that's fantastic. So really good, really appreciate. Let's keep moving on here because we dug into that a lot.
Yeah,
we're behind, but we're doing fine. We do actually, you know what? We actually just covered the next topic I want to talk to you about, which was why Meta allocates spend the way it does, how to get it to work in your favor. We just go. I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is how to analyze creative performance specifically for cold audiences to unlock sustainable growth. What do you think about that? Huh?
Yeah, I mean, the way that a lot of the brands that I'm working with right now organize their ad account, they're not really thinking about cold audiences versus retargeting audiences. Or I feel like even just like a few years ago, we very much were trying, using retargeting campaigns and using top of funnel campaigns or broad campaigns. And right now it's a lot more broad. But when I think about cold audiences, I actually try to equate that with the most scalable messaging, because the most scalable creative is going to hit more likely those broader audiences. And the trends that I find that tend to convert or scale up the most right now, particularly, is going to be more educational based content. So this can be tutorial content. It can also be more like listicle type of content. And I'm not saying like 3 reasons why you should try this type of brand, but actually more if you think about like the old BuzzFeed articles, things that you can, I call it an educational knowledge share, actually. Like, what can you teach users about, not necessarily even like the problem that you're serving, but like the overall broader industry that you're serving. In beauty, we do a lot of tutorial content. So like how to do a certain makeup look is huge. How to do a certain routine in a set amount of time is something that we've leaned into quite a bit, and something that our competitors use quite a bit as well. So I find really like the more value and the more education that you can provide, those tend to convert cold audiences quite a bit better.
Sweet. I totally. I think, just to add on to that, like the system's going to target whoever it wants. Like, you're saying like prospecting versus retargeting. Like we used to do that. Now we don't.
Yeah.
You don't really couldn't, right? What I actually do is like, I typically have something that is like a prospecting retargeting hybrid, or actually I think of it more as a retargeting campaign that prospects a little bit. And then
your ASC campaign, essentially.
Yeah, that's my ASC. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'd have something else focus on specific, and that's where I test and learn. Again, a big chunk of the course, we dig into that how and why, right? If you want to just take that nugget for it as it is, there you go, have it for fun. But if you want to understand more about how and why, and put that in terms of how to make this scalable creative that we're talking about, well, you're gonna have to join the course for that one. I want to go to a couple other comments here. One, I just want to touch on this real quick. From Navs A. Andrew Farris has a whole podcast episode about the long form explainer being very effective for introducing complex products to cold audiences. I agree. And I love that. And it's also something where if you do that right, that can work for the entire funnel. And we had some other people mentioning that before. Let me see if I can highlight. Thank you, by the way, everyone, for the comments. It's so helpful to guide us here as we go. Let me see if I can pull up the other comment. Someone said that they found it's like that they were, this from Michael. All winning prospecting ads worked in retargeting and not the opposite. When they tested.
Which is why I don't tend to,
Right. Right. Exactly. Which is why I talk about like having them separate. Like I want to have a situation where my best prospecting ads or my best ads can be shown to warm users. I don't want to have a situation where I'm forcing specific ads to specific users based on my own biases and beliefs about advertising, that people need to see certain ads at certain points. Ooh, it's not 2018 anymore. We shouldn't be controlling that. The system can do that for you.
You know what? And I listened to a podcast on my way home last night. It was the Diary of a CEO's most recent podcast, and his guest actually said that like users no longer love the funnel experience, and that even sort of that like highly curated. User sees this ad, then goes to this landing page, and then sees these like 3 ads. Like there is becoming like potentially, from his perspective, more resistance to that. And
I'd like to go listen to that or whatever. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dara. I'd like to go listen to that and talk to that guy, because I think that's from a marketer's perspective, maybe what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think in reality, what's going on is that marketers are really wrong and dumb.
And we just don't need the funnel anymore. Yeah.
We do and we don't, because controlling it is the problem. Thinking we need to control it is the problem, when we can actually build, like if you think about it, if we're going to put an ad on TV, right? Like that ad's going to go to people that are in every stage of the funnel. So how do we make an ad that makes sense for and works for all of them and keeps existing customers interested and is still relevant to them? That you can do that. And a big part of this is mindset, because people don't realize you can make an ad that is that potent. And I'm literally giving you permission. All of you have permission to go make an ad that is literally that potent. I want to also just plug here. I was also just on Andrew Farris's podcast. Video episode came out 3 days ago. Had an absolute blast with Andrew. You should, if you're enjoying any of this and you want to hear me talk more about the media buying stuff, even though I went on there to talk about creative, we wound up talking about media buying more. Absolutely fantastic. And Dara, you too. I think you would love listening to that. Have you had him on? Have you talked to him, or have you been on his? You guys got to get together. That'd be so great.
I know. I'd love to talk with him.
love Andrew Farris. Big plug for him. So yeah, let's see. I think that was it. I think that was it for like the stuff that we slated to talk about here. I think I'm gonna just gonna tell everyone now a little bit about my course, and stick around for a little bit because we have an offer for you. We also have our Q&A coming up. But yeah, I just want to show you a little bit about my course here. Course, it's called Building Ads with Barry, and I am Barry. So let's get this up on the stage here. There we go. This is all about creating winning ads consistently. So it's not about lowering your CPA right away. It's not about little hacks. This is about core principles. This is about foundational learnings to help you both understand where to get inspo and how to get inspo. And some of the stuff you talked about, Dara, is super valid. Yes, you can look at your competitors. Yes, you can look at organic content, but how? And what stuff to look at and what not to. So we dig deep into that. By the way, course is starting February 3rd, so you only got a few more days left. Oh, look, Dara, that's you. And you said some very nice things about me. I think I think the gun I had to your head was just off camera. Is that right? Is that what this is in the bottom? Is that what this is in the bottom right here? I think that was the gun. No, you said some very nice things, and I really appreciate that. So this is to make you an ad creative machine. People are just having trouble finding and making ads that scale. And that's what this is all about, is how do you make long lasting winning ads, and not just ads, but concepts and ideas and visuals and things that don't just work for a week, but can work for a month, a year, 2 years. I literally have ads that I have made years ago that are still running today. How? Because I don't chase tiny little trends. I chase big mega trends over time. So I also, for those of you who are joined a little bit late here, we have 480 people. Hey, I've been doing this since 2008. I've been doing media buying since 2008. I've been doing the creative only more recently, maybe the last 8 years or 10 or whatever. But I've been studying billions of dollars worth of ad performance. And taking my combination of media buying experience and creative knowledge, that's where this course lives. And I give you my account structure. Not that you need my exact account structure, but you need to understand how and why I optimize the way I do and why I set up things the way I do in a way that you can take it and use it yourself how you see fit, right? It's not a one size fits all thing. It is a explanation of how and why things work. Very simple, very clean, very applicable to every single one of you that are paying attention right now. And this is, again, that's the media buying side. We're also mostly talking about creative, making ads that people don't hate. Like that's what I do. I don't know if how many of you have seen, I'd love if you can comment the name of a brand whose ad you've seen me in. I'd love, maybe, you know, I don't mean to be too egotistical about it, but please drop if you've seen me in an ad, mostly if you're in the US, if you've seen me in an ad for something. I'd love to know if you've seen that around. And as we scroll down here, we can see Dara and my business partner and ad crate, Alex Cooper, will be special guest mentors. They'll be doing little segments in the course, so it's not just me. And then let's scroll down here. Here's some more. Here's Ovadia from Perfect Gene, Justin from Tushy, Jason from Flake saying quite nice things about me. Here's a bunch of nice things from people I've worked with in the past. This is the first time going through this cohort course. So we're very excited. We're giving it at a cost that is less than we're going to be doing in the future runs of the same program. This is the first time going through it. And here's what we're going to be covering. Strategy, which is no BS audience research and creative strategy, talking through a lot of the things we were just talking about here, but digging in way, way, way deeper and giving you the tools to be able to do that yourself at scale forever. And then next steps are creating ads that people don't hate. How do we make not just stuff that gets attention, but stuff that people want to pay attention to? And that's something that Dara is going to be pitching in about. And then we have a media buying section, how the system works and getting the system to work better for you. So talking more about how and why we would have prospecting or retargeting hybrid / colder audiences. How do we set that up? And really, more importantly, why? And why the system maybe isn't always working for you. Why the system can sometimes cheat, depending on how much you're advertising elsewhere, depending on how many other traffic sources you have, depending on what your attribution setting is. All of these things are in there and we cover it and how they intersect, which is like the thing I can't even dig into. Like, it's so massive. And that's what I like. I'm just so passionate about, and we got to dig into in this course. And then lastly, how to optimize performance, building a scaling strategy for a successful ad account so you can define the cold audience for product and really find scale. So yeah, here's the calendar for the course. We're doing 4 Thursdays. We're doing live Q&A and workshops together. Everything else is already recorded and ready to go. And yeah, we got $200 off for anyone who's here in this webinar right now. There's a link that we just shared. Oh, Pablo, thank you. Oh my, that's amazing. Thank you. I am really appreciative. So excited to have you in there. We have over 100 people in the course already. We're super excited to get started. I am just like, literally, I can't wait to like do this. It's really exciting. Oh, and here, thank you for the response. Ecology skincare, Opa Pop popcorn, rotten gummy worms. Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's right. Michael mentioned my my Perfect Gene ads invoking desire. And then yes. So to Robbie's question here, I don't think I'm going to be able to respond to every single ad and campaign structure from every single student, but the goal is to have feature some, and I'm going to be responding to them. You should be able to get more than enough information on what you need, and just, you'll reach out to me. If not, I'll get you what you need.
Maybe even for the session that I do, we can do feedback on ad creative specifically.
Ooh.
So if anyone's interested in that, I would be really happy to just do a session with you guys in the course. Cause I'm excited because we worked together for a while. I'm just excited to join the course as a student. And then of course have the one session that we do together, but maybe it'd be fun to do like a working session with everyone.
And I want to note, by the way, I hope there's someone out there who's like, wait a second, doesn't Dara have her own course? And why is she promoting this guy's course? I've taken your course and I loved it and I appreciate it. And I think there is very little overlap. And I think you dig more into like how to make, I don't even know how to describe it. Like you maybe tell people, plug your own course, I guess, for a second here. Tell people, because I think anyone who's would want one, there's a pretty big overlap of people who'd want the other. So I'd love to hear if you can tell me 1 sec or a couple minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
Your course.
So for mine, the Performance Creative Master Course, it's primarily a training program for brands and agencies to quickly get their teams up to speed on creative strategy, going over the major formats, going over, how to lean into messaging that converts, but also, how to set up a creator program and how to create iterations that convert. I also really specifically made mine for people that didn't have a ton of time. So Barry's is, you're going to get so much content. It's going to go so in depth. Mine is a little bit more like you can complete it in one day. And that was very much by design too, for people who just really quickly want to do that deep dive and come out of the other end of that, feeling like they have a really good grasp on creative strategy and how to build those teams.
Nice comment there from Sonia. What up, Sonia? Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in.
Oh, thanks,
Very
Sonia.
kind of you. Really, really, really good to see you. That's awesome. Oh, and also another nice comment there from Robbie. Awesome. So yeah, I think there will be some overlap, but also we have different perspectives on things. Like if you're watching this and you're like, oh, they agree on everything. We agree on a lot of things, but I think we also have different experience, different expertise, and that the nuance between them is super valuable. Definitely worth, if you're going to take her course, I think most people would also want to take my course. And I'd imagine there's probably maybe 50% overlap of people who should be taking both. So I don't think there's any people who should be taking one and not needing the other. But anyway.
But I would say if you're down to the wire and you're which one should I buy for my team right now? Candidly, buy Barry's. I'm going to be changing mine quite a bit. I'm not going to steal your thunder here.
Future plug. No, that's good.
Future plug.
That'd be wild if you came on it. If you just plugged your own course only, that would be incredible.
Right. Or I was just JK, it's changing. No, mine, it's totally going to be changing a lot in the next 3 to 6 months. So I'd say if you want something right now, learn from the master. This is the man who taught me. I'm super excited to be joining as a student.
Yeah, wait a second. You're going to take my course and then you're going to update your course to steal all of my stuff? Great. Thanks, Dara. You jerk.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know about that. I'm going to ban you. I'm going to ban you from my course. You're banned.
No.
Forget it. Can't call. Hang up the call. Hang up this call. We're done. No. So yeah. Again, there's a discount link right there. You can get $200 off the price. And again, the plan is to run this cohort again in another quarter, and I intend to charge a lot more. So if you're at all thinking about it and you're you think you might be wanting to do it 3 months from now or whatever it is, it's not going to be this cheap. So I would do it now. That's not just a sales tactic. I'm serious. So yeah. And there's also just a note in case you have a team or an agency or a lot of people, we also offer a team discount and bonuses. So if you have a big team and you get it for a bunch of people, I also can do a private workshop with your team, which is pretty neat. And just to put the price in perspective, an hour consulting call with either of us would be only a little bit less money than the price of this course. And this course gets you everything in my brain about this area. So strongly recommend it. Even though I love a good consulting call, anyone paying attention to this should be more interested in the course than me coming in and helping solve one problem. You get a lot of solutions to a lot of problems in one course. So yeah, get it, go get it. I don't know what you're waiting for. By the way, in the course, we talk a little bit about how I'm pretty sure in every ad that I'm ever in, almost all of them, I think we're going to make a jump edit of this. I'm pretty sure in every ad I say, I don't know what you're waiting for. to get people to click. I think I literally put that in every ad. Oh, sorry. We had a couple questions here. Is the course mainly based on strategy, or will it also cover the how and implementation? Yeah, it's both. We are going to get into the how. Like, this is where I live. Like, this is all I care about is the how and why. So yeah, you're going to be able to get real examples on what to do and how. And I talk about like if I wish I could frame myself as like a modern ads philosopher or theorist. That's kind
ads enthusiast.
Well, certainly an enthusiast, but I think a lot of what I talk about is like philosophical and not necessarily stuff that can always be simply proven with data or the data. Like if going back to what I said before about like focusing on ad spend, because maybe the system knows something that we don't, and we can only see the post optimization data. I can't prove that to you, right? But I can explain it to you because I understand it, because I've been doing this a long time, and because I know what I've seen, and I've seen the data that does support that. So we really dig into that in the course. And even if it's such a useful, there is absolutely no one that is watching this right now that wouldn't find at least one extremely valuable piece in that course, at least one. And yeah, all it takes is literally that for this course to pay for itself. If you're spending any significant amount of money, this of course will be a blip compared to what you can get out of it. So I think I've said enough. I don't know what you're waiting for. Click now. Go get that. Go get it. See, that's how it works. Make people want it. And then we'll just clip this into an ad, and we're all set. Don't know. Let's see if there's anything else here. I can answer some of these questions. If you have any questions here about the team option or anything else that we haven't mentioned here, we'll put the email address in as well. It's barry@buildingadswithbarry.com. If you have any questions that we didn't get to answer here about the course, please send an email and we will answer. Someone from my team or myself will get in touch with you. We really appreciate it. All right. Thank you to the loyal audience that stuck around. 472 people live, which is wild.
That's insane.
That is insane. Thank you.
Even through the pitch. Well done.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. It went up. People loved it. But yeah, let's dig in. We got a lot of questions. Let's do some Q&A. I've already starred. I don't know if you can see this in the inside here. I've already starred 27 questions. So
oh my God, let's do it.
First, huge props to everyone for these questions. There are some really major good questions in here, and we will not have time for all of them. We're going to do our best. I have a feeling we're going to get caught up in a couple of these and spend some time chatting through them, but we've got 30 minutes. Let's see what we can do. Dara, is there anything? Well, first, shout out. We'll just go through some
Hannah.
Thanks, Hannah. Hope you're still here. Love you. Hope you're doing well. I'll do a minor plug with Hannah. Hannah and I and you will all be on Motion's upcoming creative webinar. What is it?
Creative Trends webinar. So
That's
we're
right.
each going to be presenting for 5 minutes a creative trend or insight that we want you guys to know for 2025. I am really looking forward to Hannah's session.
Me too. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
So yeah. Props. Okay, we're on the same page. No, we're on the same page. I was literally going to say exactly that. I snuck a peek. I don't know if I'm guessing you did too. Mm-hmm. I snuck a peek at her.
I was looking at the document today, and I was like, "Oh man, Hannah's is going to be really good."
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm kind of mad I'm not doing it. It was a good one. She stole it.
I know.
I'll take
all
credit.
Feeling.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's just go AI Buddy. Which brands to follow for creative inspiration for noobs like me? Dara, name one.
Loops earplugs.
Great.
Great
I'll say Dr.
one.
I'll say Dr. Squatch. let's move on. We could talk about that for an hour, so I won't.
Just look at the brands that Barry's like worked with, particularly the D2C ones, and go look at those.
Don't steal those. Don't steal those. Please don't. Let's do this one. I'm currently working on roofing industry. Just joined the live. Any suggestions? I know how to focus on service-based business ads, but what if you have some kind of always the same creatives? Meaning, I'm guessing if you're still here, I'm guessing you're talking about like you're getting the same like creative options from either from the brand or from the people who are shooting it, just like pictures of roofs and videos of roofing. My quick answer, I'm actually Dara. Why don't you, if you have I don't know if you have a thought. I have a quick thought.
Yeah, I've worked a little bit in the housing remodeling industry.
Yes, we both have.
Yes, we have. And something that we would actually do is have the workers on these sites take before and after photos. And those really, really simple ones could crush it. Honestly, just even showing like the craftsmanship of the work that you're doing, that alone, not even showing the before and after, can be wildly effective. There were also a number of times where we like hired creators to go to these sites too, if you're feeling really ambitious. But sometimes just getting those initial before and after photos can do really, really well. We also did time lapses that crushed quite a bit for us if you have someone that has like a GoPro. But yeah, like which other ones did you see work, Barry?
I was just gonna say humanize it. Humanize it, get some storytelling in. Think about, why would someone need a new roof? And then like try and humanize it. Preferably like if you can have an affable person who's in this company who is actually on the team and like fix it, like there's nothing better than that. Someone who understands the roofing problem, who can speak authentically and with authority about the problem. That's really hard to beat. Find a way in. Take the course. That's the answer. Screw it. Take the course. We'll cover it more. But yeah, that's it. I would try and humanize it. I would echo everything you said, but then say also, if you could find a way to humanize it. Because it's not something that you'd think to humanize is roofing, So you can't just, I think you can do that and make it work with just showing pictures of roofs. But I think you can do that while also having a human.
Like if you had text overlay that said like, something about a roof leak or whatever, or anything, from the perspective of a mom, like who's like, who has like kids in her house, like that's deeply emotional. Like if you can like dig into some of those stories too, and show them as testimonials, like pull out those heartstrings.
Or not. Yeah, absolutely. Or like, how you can make your house more valuable, right? Like increasing the value of it. There's like so many angles to it that are human, like real, believable, authentic stories. So go get that money.
I also just want to say Robbie has like had the best commentary here. Like the course has roofing covered.
Yeah, for sure.
God, Robbie, you better be in the course just for the feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. Okay. Let's see here. Real quick, from Hamza, if our best ad has stopped performing, maybe due to creative fatigue, would you recommend turning it off for maybe 25 to 30 days? Meanwhile, testing more concepts and later giving it another try. No, I wouldn't turn it off, until I've dug in and used my empathy to understand why. And often that why is trying to look at the negative comments or comments that have maybe piled up. That is something I see happen too frequently, where a great ad is doing great. And then either it immediately drops off a cliff suddenly or gradually. And I'll have to go look at the comments, and sometimes I'll find, there's one really critical comment with 90 likes on it. And that'll be the first thing that people see, which is the equivalent of vandalism on your ad. So yeah, I would hide that. I'm not saying that's what happened there, but this is the empathy thing. Dig in and understand why, what's going on. It's not random. Something is causing it. Maybe it's something out of your control. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something happened on the website, the landing page. There's lots of variables, but you got to look inward first and figure out what you can control. Dara, what else am I missing
Yeah,
anything?
I'd say I definitely don't look at it formulaic, like, oh, turn it off for 30 days and then turn it back on. But what I will
Right.
say is I have found like an easy, quick win is if you see that performance is going down, potentially relaunching an ASC with top performers from the last year, trying those top performers again is something that I have seen a quick win from if you need it. But in general, like I'm not like turning things off and then like methodically turning them back on in any respect. So
Yeah, nope. I would maybe recreate that ad with new copy or a new thumbnail or a new something just to like know that if it's an ad that I like think does well in the account, not just that it has done well, but like also I'm like, yeah, this is a good ad for people to see. It'll get them in the journey. Then yeah, I would recreate that and find other ways to like spend more on it. Let's move on here. Dara, I want you to answer this one from a different. Is it the same Hamza? Another Hamza A? I'm not sure if they're the same or different. But do you think it is a good strategy to first spend a small budget on an engagement campaign to crank up the likes or comments on the ad? So you maybe
no, I found this to be like a total waste of time.
Yep.
Recently. With that said, the only time that I would maybe think about doing something like this is if you do see a piece of organic content that you've posted on Instagram or particularly Reels, and you see, oh, this is getting really good engagement, like do try running that as an ad potentially. So I guess I'm just looking at the inverse of that.
But yeah, you wouldn't use an engagement campaign.
No, I would never use an engagement campaign. But
especially not for videos where a video play counts as an engagement. So you're effectively just optimizing for video plays, which is not really the engagement that doesn't build social proof. Sorry.
Yeah. So next question.
All right, let's move on. Let's see. Do static ads work for introducing, all caps, introducing a brand, or are static ads better for brands the viewer has already heard of? And I'll just ask you, do you even think about things in terms of this?
No, okay. I don't think format inherently is going to categorize you as top of funnel or bottom of funnel. It's really all about the messaging and like the imagery, the whatever, the actual content of the ad. So no.
Yep, I completely agree. And I'll add that, and something we talk about really in depth in the course, is how sometimes it might look this way because of how the system is optimizing ads. And it's not always, it depends on how you have your exclusion set up and your attribution setting set up and your everything like that. It can create a situation where it makes you feel that way, where you see the ads focus on more spend on certain types of ads that maybe work on certain types of placements. Or
a certain static will have a lower CPM. So some people deduce that to think, oh, like my CPMs are lower on images. And it's not like always.
Right. It doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's generating more performance, and that doesn't mean it's generating more scale. So I mean, I have a whole long Twitter thread about why CPMs are almost completely useless to monitor. I also touch on that more in depth. Guess where? In the course.
Oh no! How many times did you say course?
I know. I really don't like it. I really don't like how much I've said it, but it's true. Like, I just finished recording it, and I'm like, I just did this. Like, I just talked all of the things I wanted to talk about this topic, and they're done and recorded, and I'm like so proud of it. Let's see. I think this could be fun for you. Why is there so much confusion between the roles of meta ads expert, performance marketer, media buyer, copywriter, and creative strategist? Great question.
I think number one, it's changed so much even within the last 3 years, right? Like we weren't talking about a creative strategist as a role up until about 2-3 years ago.
Right.
And then the media buyer, was initially kind of expected to take this role. But I think like Meta ads expert, isn't that someone who technically works at Meta and calls you at all hours of the day, bothering you?
That is a different thing.
That is a different thing. But I thought I'd just point that out.
And we love those. We love those.
And performance marketer kind of encapsulates all of these. And then copywriter, creative strategist, I only really find at like traditional ad agencies, if they are separate roles. But I'd say like for the industry that we serve primarily, which is D2C, there's like a lot more, it's not confusion. There's just like overlapping responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it in terms of a Venn diagram, like a media buyer monitors performance, but so does a creative strategist, and a creative strategist writes copy for ads, but so does a copywriter. And I just think that like none of these roles should ever be, oh, this is this one person's role and responsibility forever in perpetuity. The platforms and even just content making in general continues to change, and we'll have to change with it. So
totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll add like companies are, I think the better and better, more winning companies are getting smaller and more nimble. So like one person can do all of those things sometimes. Maybe they shouldn't, but there are some people that are very talented and very experienced in all of these things, such as yourself, or perhaps myself. But I wouldn't call myself the greatest copywriter in the world, but I know how to write good copy and edit good copy. So I can do all those things, but also like, it doesn't make sense for me to do all those things. And media buying is, I hate the phrase media buying is dead or media buying is dying, but a lot of the traditional media buying technical, like audience targeting, like a lot of the tricks and whatever are done. Like, and a lot of it also probably was all just taking, like, it was just probably just all confusing stuff for what really was just good ads. I think is really good ads, good landing pages, good web experiences are all just what was ever working in the first place. And the media buying just took credit for all of it. More and more, I keep seeing media buying tactics that just are really good at taking credit for ad performance. And not actually good at generating incremental value or scale. And to segue perfectly, let's move on to this question. Is it normal? I think this segues well. Is it normal for Facebook to show fewer data points compared to the client CRM system, even when CAPI is installed? So you're seeing fewer sales in Ads Manager than you are in your actual third-party tracking. Dara, I'll give you like 30 seconds.
I don't think I should answer this question.
Great, I'll take it. This is something we also talk about in the course. But yeah, this is normal. A few things. One, a lot of us think advertising is like $1 in, $1 out, immediate, right? Especially performance advertisers. But that's true. But it's also true that ads have a longer lasting impact. I would challenge any of you to think of an ad that you remember seeing as a child. And I almost guarantee that every single one of you can think of an ad that you saw as a child. I always think of Di-Serrone on the Rocks. If anyone remembers that, if anyone's old enough. So yeah, that's my point in saying that is like Facebook's attribution is only maximum 7-day click. Actually, you can technically look at 28-day click. So it's never going to be one-to-one. And also people have other routes that bring them to sales. It's just never going to be perfect. No ad data should be perfect, should be exact. It's not, you're not advertising in a vacuum. Sorry. Let's move on. Is AI Buddy a real person, or is this like an actual AI?
I'm worried. We should.
Lots of good questions though.
Yeah.
We already answered that. Dara, please answer this one. Do ugly ads? Oh yeah, you read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ugly ads work for luxury, high AOV brands. And
great, we're done. Thanks.
Yeah,
no,
that's
keep going.
No, but I really think about it as in production value. I've actually worked on a few luxury brands. More notably, I worked with a luxury shoe brand out in Australia for a while. And one of the things that we did even a number of years ago was we would shoot their commercials that they were doing, because they also advertise on TV, also on iPhone, and really have that more of the behind the scenes experience for them, which I know is something that Oren Meets the World recently just talked about, Oren John, about, if you're doing a big shoot, especially for luxury brands, have the iPhone shooter like on set as well.
Yeah.
So yes, they absolutely work, but it really is also about, maybe not like doing a Post-it note ad, like for that. Like, I think sometimes we have a narrow view of like what an ugly ad is and what it isn't, but
that's been my problem is I have this, neon light, and pretty much every hat I wear every day says make ugly ads. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that to mean like, it's got to be as ugly as possible. It's not. It's about how do we make stuff that's uglier than what your normal marketing brain would want you to do. So my example I often like for this question is like, you can make a really ugly ad on a really expensive yacht. Or you can make a really ugly ad on a private plane. You can. Like, literally, if I was on a private plane and I shot it on my phone and I could be jumping up and down, right? That's going to be like, and jumping up and down, celebrating and screaming. That could be an ugly ad that could feature a luxury product. Maybe that doesn't feel luxurious, but there's tons of ways you can do it, right? That feature and frame something in a luxurious manner, because it's not about using the fanciest camera. You do not get extra credit points for using a fancy camera to shoot your ad content. In fact, you get penalized. We dig into this more, but it's a subconscious thing about what people understand to be real and authentic and the content that they're on Instagram to consume. And it's very seldom, very rarely, really perfectly polished, shot on expensive camera stuff. And to your point, more and more people are shooting stuff intentionally on iPhones because of that. So
yeah, just because you create an ugly ad too doesn't mean it's necessarily like the cheapest ad, because of the setting, because of the people that you work with. I work in beauty, and like we work with a lot of celebrities, and like those are shot on iPhone. And a lot of times it's like, taking place at their house. So like the way that I like to think about it too is like, if the setting is optimal, if the talent is optimal, how can
and what
you
they're wearing, right? Like, it's all these things.
How can you signal luxury?
Right.
But then once all of those elements are taken into account, how can you make the best ad within the next 5 minutes? How could you convince them to sell? That's like the challenge that I like to give people is once you have the sniff test of luxury checkmarked, how can you sell?
Right. Which, by the way, the people who want to that work at the luxury company almost never can allow for what I just said. So it's irrelevant.
No. Yeah. You're not going to.
If you can, then you're going to win. Right. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Gucci do like iPhone ads before, so like it happens. It's just like, you don't have a ton of these examples, but
Bentley's done it for sure. They do some lo-fi stuff. We're gonna try and do some rapid fire questions here because we only got 10 minutes left. Hi, Dara and Barry. What's the best way to test multiple ad creatives without overwhelming the audience? I would say don't worry about overwhelming the audience. That's not a thing. I don't even understand what you're talking about.
I think she wants to understand what's the best number of ad creatives to test, like given a budget, right?
Well,
like
if Remsh is still there, let's see if he can clarify it. But that's not how I'm interpreting this question, but you might be right. Because I think they would say it was for budget, which is another question here. We can answer that. But if the question was like overwhelming the audience isn't going to see all your ads. They can't.
Yeah, which is why you look at a metric like frequency, because like if you saw, all like, you have a ton of frequency on like these ads, then yeah, maybe you are hitting every single person, but you likely very much are not. So I wouldn't, to your point, Barry, I wouldn't worry about overwhelming the audience.
If that's the case, yeah. By the way, we hit 500 people. This is insane. Hello.
Still?
Still going up. That's wild. Let's keep on trucking here. Advantage Plus. Dara, do you have a quick take on Advantage Plus shopping?
Yeah, we use it at the brand that I work with. We love it, but like sometimes we also have like manual campaigns. But if I was going to like start my own ad account tomorrow, and start from like a lower budget, I'd probably be only using like Advantage Plus to start.
Impressive. And there's a really big nuance that you said in there, which we touch on in the course, which is about why a bigger brand at a larger scale might struggle with ASC, again, depending on how you set it up. So can't answer it all now, but that's a good one. Relatedly, I'm going to bring up a related question. I love a good segue. Hi, Elfara. I don't know. Sorry. How do you break down by audience segment to analyze your results? Literally recorded a huge segment about that and the value of that breakdown in my course. And that relates to the last question. And when I talk often about like cold audiences versus like warm and cold audiences, we have the luxury now of being able to break that down in Ads Manager using that audience segments tool. So assuming you set your existing customers, assuming you set your engaged users audiences, you can actually study and understand how and where Facebook is allocating budget of your campaigns, which is the most valuable thing I've seen in my entire advertising career. Meta offer to advertisers to look into some of how the black box is working. So that answers the previous question from Emma as well, about that. What about conversion rate at an ad level, on an ad level? Dara, do you care?
Sometimes I look at it, but in general, I'm absolutely not like optimizing for it. I actually don't trust that metric so much.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't take into account cost. That's a huge problem, which also doesn't take into account if it's going to warmer audiences or colder audiences. So I would not recommend focusing on conversion rate pretty much at any level. It's not a good metric. It's a really jumbled metric.
And it does. Again, it doesn't take into account even like return, to your point. So
yeah, it's a rough one. That was already that. Let me see if we have any other good ones here. Sorry. Straight into performance marketing. Oh yeah. Okay. From Juan Jesus. Hi, for a brand new opportunity. A brand new apparel / beauty brand with no social media. Is it better to focus on brand build / trust campaigns first, or go straight into performance marketing? Dara, what do you say?
So I don't really. So if I'm going to be building up an ads an ads manager for a new brand,
you're just building a new brand.
Yeah. If I'm building a new brand, I'm generally not looking at the difference between brand building trust campaigns versus performance marketing. I'm also curious if this means like if I'm doing engagement campaigns and traffic campaigns versus like sales campaigns. No, definitely not on that. But I would really then, initially start rapidly testing as many different formats as I could, as well as really assessing what type of education like an audience would need for either the brand, for the industry, for the specific product, and really try like initially focusing on that type of content since you are entering into a market as like a new player. So yeah, like I would, in this case, I would go straight to performance marketing, but
I would.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the quickest, feedback loop. You can, once you start going with it, you get some feedback, you can learn, you can optimize, you can keep growing. Yeah. It's versus, yeah. Anyway, good, fun one. Let's see if we can find any more here. That is there anything, Dara, are there any here that you see that you want to jump into? That we haven't touched on already? Oh, this is a good one from before. What is the early metrics? Like what are early metrics? So if I'm, if this is a Shopify account, Shopify site, whatever, optimized for purchase, I will look at other secondary, tertiary metrics like initiate checkouts, like add to carts. Those are not perfect one-to-one of anything, but they are absolutely a guide, especially if you know or think an ad is going to colder audiences. People might be more likely to add to cart, but not yet quite ready to buy. So those aren't perfect, especially depending on how your site is set up. If the first button on your landing page is an add to cart, that's not really a good metric to use. So think about that. Let's see.
I like this one from Robbie. Others teach to run like 150 ads and almost never turn off the ads. Do y'all have thoughts?
Go for it.
I'd say typically I am never like launching a testing campaign that has anywhere close to that. I'm keeping my tests initially like quite a bit more controlled, quite a bit more tight, because I'm like really trying to focus on the quality of that. Now I know I am the person that in our podcast that we did with the guys a few weeks back, I was saying that creative volume was going to be the big buzz term, which then everyone equated that I was like the champion for creative volume. I do think it's really important. I do think there's going to be more volume, but I'm not like, I don't suggest you just arbitrarily putting out like 150 ads and seeing
just
what's exactly going to work. And even like the brand that I work with, like some weeks we are putting out that many ads, but when we have really specific tests that we're running with specific creators, specific ideas, specific messaging points, some are iterations versus net new. And we're, are we turning off ads? Yes, we are turning off ads. We are turning off tests. And actually this question reminded me of another question that I saw from Daria. Hey girl, what are your thoughts on roughly a number of new concepts versus iterations to be tested within a week or a month? And I actually really push my teams to think about doing 90% net new concepts versus iterations. Now, I have a pretty strict like POV on like what I think a true iteration is. Like a true iteration is either just going to be swapping out the hook on like a winning creative to try something else, or trying to put that winning hook onto another creative that you think didn't get as much juice, or swapping out the messaging on a creative without changing any other elements. I really only think that those type of iterations should be done on like banger, like winning ads. But that doesn't mean that like the net new creative that I'm making isn't taking learnings from other concepts. In fact, the creative that I'm going to be showing in Motion's Creative Trends webinar on Thursday, I am going to actually show you a top performing creative from the brand that I worked on and how we iterated it to make an even better creative, and the journey of that. So yeah, that's it.
Wild. Dude, this has been amazing. I know we're about out of time here. I can't believe we have 520 people. Next time we should do.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Why? We should do this because it's just going to keep going up. We should just do this for like 6. We should do like a full work day and see if we can get it to like 5,000. I bet.
I would love to do like I would love to do like a hackathon.
Yeah.
Like an ad hackathon. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we go, remind everyone here, there is a $200 off code link right here. If you're interested in my course, Building Ads with Barry, if you've enjoyed any of this, literally any of this, even if you've enjoyed, I apologize. Someone mentioned that I'm a bit condescending. Yep, I am. I'm a bit of a jerk. But and Dara, is that true? Am I a bit of a jerk?
Oh, just imagine working with him.
Exactly.
And if you want to get the raw, unfiltered takes in the course, you will find it, but you will grow from it. I assure you.
Absolutely.
As I have.
My goal is genuinely to help. I'm here to help. I want to give you all my expertise, all my guidance. Literally everything I know is in here. So check it out. I don't know what you're waiting for, as I like to say.
Oh my goodness.
You'll probably start saying that in your ads too. But yeah, there's a $200 discount on the course. So go check it out. There's a ton of bonuses. Like if you actually go do the math on a lot of the bonuses in the course, you actually get more in value than just from the bonuses alone than you do for even paying for the course, including a $200 a month discount to Foxwell founders, as we talked about in the last.
Oh, I love that community. So good.
Literally, like that's a lifetime discount. So if you wanted to join Foxwell founders and you join my course, you'd get $200 a month discount for the life of that relationship, the life of your membership there. So that alone literally pays for the cost of this course, because Andrew's very nice. Love the Foxwell Founders membership. And there's a few other bonuses like that you should definitely go check out. And thank you, Judy. Thank you. I am a bit of a jerk, but you know what? I'm really not that bad. And I won't be a jerk to any of you who come into the course unless you want me to, which
it's character building. Let me
it's
tell
not about
you.
character building, but like my job is to help you be better and find and understand what's getting in your way. So if something's getting in your way, I'm going to tell you like, hey, there's a better way to do this. And also I believe in continuous improvement. Like we can all always be doing better. Even if you're the best at something, if you're the best D2C marketing, Facebook ads nerd like Dara, you can still improve. You can still get better. And Dara does keep making her content better. And Dara does keep working on making herself better. And she's amazing. So if she can do that and she can have that mindset and I can do that, and I can have the mindset, so can you. That's what we actually also talk about in this course is that mindset and how to keep building on wins. Anyway, thank you to 520 of you. It's been 2 hours we've been here. Again, go check it out, buildingadswithbarry.com. Hit the link right there. Dara Denney, any last remarks here before I see you in a couple days in California?
Very excited to hang out with you in San Francisco on our secret mission.
Even though we live like minutes away from each other, we are physically minutes away from each other right now.
I know. But yeah, I'm super excited to like be a student again. You're one of my best mentors, and I'm just like really excited to see this thing come to life.
Amazing. Awesome. This has been great. I hope you all found this valuable. If you're interested in the course, check it out. Please, we'd love to have you in there. And yeah.
What are you doing?
What are you waiting for? I don't understand. What are you waiting for? Click the link right now. Go for it.
Okay.
Thank you, Dara. See, you're going to use that in your ads now too. Everyone, go use that in your ads. That's the one hack. That's a hack. The course is way more in depth. That's a hack. Anyway, thanks everyone. We'll see you somewhere in the course. Bye.
Bye.